Good evening, welcome. You're watching Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shom. On the programme today, the government for the first time, the Air India accident investigator has reacted to a massive story which has emerged from the Wall Street Journal, where they say that one of the pilots, in fact the pilot in command of that Boeing 787 Dreamliner, was the pilot who switched off the fuel switches of that aircraft. Remember, it is once the engines were starved of fuel that within a few seconds it crashed. On the program tonight, we are looking at transparency, right, which is what a lot of these reports are talking about, versus rigorous investigation, because that is exactly what the government says they must have the ability to do. And by government, I am talking about the independent investigator. Well, let's just bring you a couple of details about what the Wall Street Journal had out in the morning. In its story today, focusing on the pilots, they've brought out details of crucial cockpit conversations. Remember, the Wall Street Journal claims that these cockpit conversations seem to indicate that the pilot in command was the person who had switched off the fuel switches on the aircraft. That in turn resulted in thrust rollback from the engines. The preliminary accident report, which had come in earlier on, did not identify which pilot had actually done that. But they say in their report that based on what they have seen, there needs to perhaps be a police investigation in India as well. So there was also another important mention that the co-pilot, Kundar, expressed surprise and panic in the middle of all of this. So that's the pilot, that's the co-pilot. Again, this is what the Wall Street Journal has to say. Why, shortly after the fuel switches were switched off, the co-pilot expressed panic, but the captain remained calm. The allegation, I repeatedly use that word allegation, based on what the Wall Street Journal is saying, is that it was the pilot in command sitting on the left of the aircraft. He wasn't the pilot flying, who had switched off the fuel switches. Why on earth would he do that is the big question. It raises all sorts of issues. Kundar was the pilot, as I mentioned over there, but it is the pilot in command who had actually done that. So should criminal authorities review the matter as a potential crime rather than as a safety mishap? Because a lot of the focus in India has been on potential technical defects. Was there a software issue? Was there an issue in terms of maintenance? Were there other issues, mechanical issues? That's a cause of concern. Now, the government has called the news break to be one-sided in a signed document by the Accident Investigation Board of India. In fact, the head of that. Let's move to that next one, the next point, where they've actually said that it is not the time to create public anxiety. They've also said that they are working in a time-bound manner. Let's move to the next page, bring up a few of the other points, and that selective, unverified reporting by international media is taking place. They oppose that. This comes on a day when that Wall Street Journal report came out. They want international media's actions to be responsible, right? And they've said that it is irresponsible to sort of breach the sanctity of that process within India. It is too early to reach definitive conclusions, again indicating that perhaps the Wall Street Journal has premature narratives undermined the integrity of the probe. Well, for right or for wrong, that probe has already, in a sense, been undermined. Let's go across to our guests at this stage. Captain C.S. Randhawa is a senior examiner on a Boeing 777 and has been in the DGCA in the past as well. And we've got Terry Toer, retired airline pilot. Both of them will be joining us in a few moments. Do we have the guests up at this stage? All right, we don't have the guests up. We'll have them up in a few moments from now. But the big focus that we continue to look at today is the Wall Street Journal report, the impact of that, with the government saying that one way or the other, there needs to be a process on the basis of which they need time for the investigation and the sanctity cannot be breached. Well, joining us now, Terry Toer is a retired airline pilot. Thanks very much for joining us. Terry, you would have seen what the government has said. By government, I mean it is an independent body, the AAIB, looking into this crash. They say that the integrity of that crash investigation is being breached by these reports which are appearing in the Western media. Is that a perspective you agree with?
Well, I'm not quite sure about reports that have breached the protocol. I mean, a breach of protocol would have to come from the investigating team. Obviously, the media is a law unto itself, and they like a sensational story and will clutch at any straw to generate one. So, present company accepted, I'm sure, but you get my point.
No, I do get your point. But Terry, the Wall Street Journal article spoke about and actually indicated which pilot had allegedly switched off the fuel switches. That adds to, where a lot of information in this case, particularly since the entire transcript of the cockpit voice recorder has not been released. Do you see that to be a valid piece of journalism, or do you believe that people need to hold back on that?
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because where did they get their information from? I think I would. Journalists are generally keen to publish any information they can get their hands on. And we've had a recent case of that in the UK over super injunctions that were intended to make people safe, but the press didn't like it. I think the real point is, where did they get the information? If someone on the investigating team leaked that, then they need to be investigated.
Right, no, that's an important point. Captain C.S. Randhawa, one way or the other, this entire process has been vitiated. There are leaks which have happened. There have been multiple reports which have come in, two from the Wall Street Journal, one from an aviation journal prior to that. And somebody is evidently speaking, if not from India, then perhaps from some of the agencies or, which are involved in this. There's nothing that can essentially be done to stop that. The details of that cockpit voice recording are obviously out there. In a situation like this, what can be realistically done to stop further publications, should that at all be required?
See, first and foremost thing, I have been, Vishnu, contemplating that in the inquiry being, or the investigation being held by the AAIB, where was the requirement of getting the NTSB, the UK team, and the FAA team? It's a legal
requirement, sir. Because
it's a legal requirement. They can take assistance.
Of those countries died. So I believe there is even a Portuguese.
You can take assistance. I can take assistance of those agencies, but prima facie, the investigation should be carried out by the agency, that is AAIB.
No, but it is, sir.
Now, our next question is that.
No, but sir, just as a point of clarification, it is being done by the AAIB. The NTSB, the Canadian regulator, the British regulator have a right to be there because their citizens have died. Right? So, therefore, they are a part of an international process where the data has evidently been shared. You can't deny them that, but the primary writer and the processor of the information is India.
It is, Vishnu, you can check up in my, I just finished as a list on the Republic TV, and there was a gentleman, Captain John Cox, and he's been on the investigation teams in USA. So I questioned to him that in case this accident would have occurred in USA, would you have allowed teams from India and UK and other places?
No, but so it depends on the citizenship.
Entirely, sir. No. He said the ICAO dictates that it depends on the country. It depends on the country. The country can deny it. That's what he said.
So you are suggesting that India should have denied for example, the NTSB
they could have assistance, and where what we feel is there is too much of interference, and the terminology is being used even in the preliminary report, transitioning. We don't use it in India.
Yeah.
It is American terminology. Okay. And it does not say at all in the preliminary report. And I thank the minister that today I had taken up this matter with the Minister of Civil Aviation. And by evening there's an appeal which has been given by the DG AAIB that all the media personnel should refrain from giving speculations and coming to conclusions. So you must have got that copy of that appeal. Now, my point is, it is very easy to blame the pilots. Yeah. Now, they are already dead. Now, I take you back to the accident which occurred in USA, Sully, very famous. A movie was also made. Now, that captain was alive to fight his battle. Otherwise, FAA wanted to pin him down. That's why he did not land in Newark. Right? He fought it. And then he was applauded and knighted for the good work he did. And he did an excellent job, if you ask me as a pilot. Now, here, the pilots are not alive to defend themselves. So, you can easily pass on the buck.
Yep.
My point is very clear that do not jump to conclusions. Let the investigations be held, and in due course of time, let the facts come to light. And for that, it is very essential that you have in the investigation team the subject matter experts who are Boeing 787 qualified and with expertise, pilots, engineers, maybe ATC controllers, and air safety specialists who can contribute a lot and bring the facts to light. What is the idea of an investigation? Idea of an investigation is that in future we do not have a similar accident. That is the idea. It is not a blame game that I will save myself if Boeing thinks or GE thinks or Honeywell thinks, okay, this is the first time it has happened, it will not happen again. You see the 737 MAX. One aircraft crashed in Lion Air, and shortly
Captain
after
Randhawa,
that,
can I
it
just
crashed.
ask you, Captain Randhawa, 2 points. I'm looking at ICAO Annex 13, which says while the state of occurrence leads the investigation, other states whose citizens are involved can appoint accredited representatives to participate in the investigation. These representatives have the right to participate in the investigation and access information, but the state of occurrence retains overall control. So there's nothing illegal in having these people over there. FAA, NTSB, the British.
But we feel in our investigations it is being more of interference by the NTSB and the FAA.
But I think you can't deny them that, particularly since their citizens have died. But sir, I have a larger question, and I take your point about the need to maintain the sanctity of the report itself. What would happen now if more leaks emerged, more details of cockpit conversations emerged? Do you not believe that perhaps these cockpit conversations should be, the transcript should be out in any case, in the name of transparency? Captain Sabha?
Now, you are able to contain this? You have foreign agencies in that. You can't hold accountability of the AIB people. There are NTSB, there is FAA, so whom will you blame? From where it is leaking, how will you? You cannot plug it.
No, you cannot plug it. That's just my point. You can't plug it at this juncture, which is why should that not have been released in the first place, the cockpit transcript.
But Vishnu, if this had happened in USA or Canada or any Western country in Europe, I don't think so anything would have leaked out.
But, sir,
I can assure you that.
Media leaks happen across the world, not just over here.
Media leaks happen, but not from the investigation agency.
So you are assuming it is from the agency we really
like in NTSB, whatever, whenever they have carried out investigations and all, I have never seen such thing happening.
Right.
At least I have not seen.
So these agencies are part of this entire process, and given their history, we don't really know where this has come from, but it has happened. But be that as it may, I take your point, and I do believe it is important to ensure that this entire process is not vitiated one way or the other. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us. I did speak earlier on in the day to Captain Mohan Ranganathan. Captain Ranganathan was somebody who had spoken about the potential role of pilots. I did ask him specifically about what he thought about what the Accident Investigation Board has now suggested in terms of the process of potentially vitiating the investigation itself. Here's what he said. On a day when the Wall Street Journal has come out with a report in which it says that the senior pilot on board AI-171 had switched off the fuel switches on board the Boeing 787 Dreamliner, there has now been a response from the chair of the Accident Investigation Board of India, is that enough in terms of an explanation or a response to what the Wall Street Journal has been saying for its views? I'm now joined by Captain Mohan Ranganathan. Captain, thanks very much for being with us. The AIB head says that the actions of the international media are irresponsible, especially while the investigation remains ongoing, and that they urge both the public and the media to refrain from spreading premature narratives that risk undermining the integrity of the investigative process. Do you believe that the reports which have appeared undermine the integrity of the investigative process?
Not at all. In fact, when I started reading the statement, I found it difficult to go beyond the third line when he claims flawless reporting. We've never found objective and transparent reporting for the last 25 years. So when they point a finger at somebody else, you have to be perfect. You have to remember that you point a finger there, you've got four fingers pointing at you. And so I wouldn't call it irresponsible. The irresponsible behavior, I would say, is the AIB with this sort of a flat kind of report. I mean, you have innuendos when, that statement he says, did you do it? And the other person, the pilot says, they know which channel the sentence was there. And you had the NTSB, Boeing, GE, AIB as associate investigators. They would have heard verbatim whatever took place inside the cockpit. See, even if they didn't want to give the full cockpit record, voice recorder transcript, they should have at least, in the preliminary report, which was released last Saturday at midnight, sent second by second from the takeoff till the time of the crash. Okay. Now see that statement in the Wall Street Journal. They say the captain switched off the fuel selectors and he remained calm. And the co-pilot was panicking. Okay. Now tell me, what is a human response when you find that you're going to be killed shortly? It's very, very difficult for anyone to be calm. There's going to be some kind of a reaction when you know that something is going to happen. It's very, very strange. That statement hit me this morning when I saw the Wall Street Journal report. So I think that itself gives a clear indication whoever leaked it, whether it is from NTSB or Boeing. I think they want to put an end to the narrative which is going on here.
That's an interesting point, and that's an important point. Do you believe that these leaks are being done from some quarters, obviously from those people who've seen the data, to ensure that the truth gets out because there is not enough confidence that ultimately the truth will emerge?
Exactly. I think you will find when this kind of narrative goes, you will find more and more information being leaked out, because if AIB wants to put an end to this kind of reporting, let them come up. They talk of preliminary report. Come out with at least the cockpit voice recorder transcript for the entire takeoff segment. Let them come out with DFDR, not vague things like, about, the times. They say at about. There is specific. The timeline is because you have to correlate what is happening in the CVR with the DFDR. That is how you identify the position of the aircraft at that spot. Now, if you can't correlate the timings with the exact time stamp, it's very, very difficult. Just like your cockpit voice recorder, it'll record every sound.
And the bottom line, Captain Ranganathan, is that you believe that there is, on the basis of that Wall Street Journal report, enough evidence for a criminal investigation to begin in India? Is that what you believe needs to start taking place, if it hasn't already?
I don't know. There was I think 10 days after the crash, they appointed a Director General of Police, and they also gave him security protection 24 hours wherever he travels in India. That is the sentence and the action which got me thinking that they are focusing on something based on what the CBR has shown them. They've not been transparent with the public. He's talking of don't mislead the public. By the silence and, sort of a flat report, you are misleading the public. And look at the kind of narratives which are going. So I think it's very important that AIIB in the next 2 days at least comes out with the second report, which is more transparent than what was done last Saturday.
All right. Okay, Captain Ranganathan, thanks very much for speaking to us. Let's see where this all heads. Thank you very much indeed, sir.
Thank you, Vinci.